Hi, I'm Garrett Davis, and for this edition of Living With, we're in Huntersville, North Carolina. You know, for the first time in the history of the world, there are more people over 65 than under 17, which means we're living in a sandwich generation, which means somewhere someone is living with a decision they have to make. Do I put mom in a rest home? Do I put dad in a rest home? Well, what about adult daycare? In a few minutes after the break, we're going to come back, and Nakesha Wright is going to be sitting down with Michelle Allgood, Program Director of Gracious Living Adult Daycare. We want you to know that adult daycare is an option. This program is brought to you in part by G. Davis Films and the Dementia Alliance of North Carolina.
Just what is the difference between Alzheimer's disease and dementia? Technically speaking, dementia is actually an umbrella term for a set of symptoms that's caused by progressive and irreversible brain diseases. Alzheimer's is the most common cause of dementia. Other common causes are vascular disease, Lewy body disease, and frontotemporal dementia. The key thing to remember is that a person with Alzheimer's has dementia, but only some people with dementia have Alzheimer's. Symptoms of dementia can be hard to define and can vary from person to person. You may expect things like difficulties with remembering, thinking and language, difficulties with daily activities, and emotional or behavioural difficulties. In the case of Alzheimer's, the symptoms are a little more specific. At first, a person may appear to have mild memory problems and even a change in behaviour. But as time goes on, these symptoms tend to get worse, and other symptoms such as confusion and depression can appear. What about treatment options? Can dementia be reversed? Sadly, dementia worsens over time and can't be reversed or cured. When Alzheimer's is the cause, there are medicines that in some cases may slow down development of symptoms for up to 2 years to help people manage daily life independently for as long as possible. While symptoms will worsen over time until around-the-clock care is needed, people can live well with dementia if they receive support, good care, and understanding. We all want to know if we're at risk or what measures we could take to prevent dementia. Though we might be more at risk later in life, rest easy knowing that it's not an inevitable part of getting old. Having a healthy lifestyle, looking after your diet, getting enough exercise, and not smoking can help reduce your risk. Dementia can have a huge impact on family and those looking after loved ones. So if you're a carer, make sure you reach out for support. For more information, visit theblueroom.bupa.com.au.
Today we are joined with Michelle Allgood from Gracious Living. Thank you so much for allowing us in your lovely facility today.
You're very welcome. Thank you for coming.
Of course. So tell everybody, what is Gracious Living?
Gracious Living is an opportunity for families to keep their loved ones in their homes while they can continue with their careers, maybe have some respite. They'll know that their loved ones are safe and cared for. We also have a healthcare component so that we can make sure that we speak with their physicians if necessary. Gracious Living is just that respite. It's that place where families know that their loved ones can come and enjoy the day, meet other people. So we get rid of that social isolation. Nobody's sitting at home just, being non-productive. If God saw fit for them to wake up that morning, every person is called to be productive.
Okay.
And so that's what we do here at Gracious Living.
What inspired Gracious Living?
My mother had a massive stroke at 58.
Okay.
Putting my mom in a nursing home at 58 wasn't going to be one of those decisions. So my husband and I worked it out where she came home with us. Now, of course, it's not like we didn't have 9 months to plan for this like a baby, so it was just like, wow, what have we done? So we tried home health, but we couldn't find a consistent caregiver that would come. So it was very difficult to juggle working for a corporation and then also caring for my mom or having the right people in my home to care for. it was a lot. And we paid a pretty penny for them to come into the home. So with all that in mind, Gracious Living was formed. It was after I worked myself out of a job because my mama was looking at me and I was looking at her, and I said, Lord, there's got to be more to life than this. What would you have us do? And he put on my heart that Gracious Living should exist because there's more people than just me. And so he pretty much purposed me for this. Mom was actually attending another daycare all the way in Charlotte. There's no adult day and health care center in Huntersville, North Carolina. So we were up here just on an island with nothing, you know. So finally, with Gracious Living available, the community started pouring in. It was amazing because initially we had to educate the community about what adult day and health care is. Nobody understands that because people think, I've got to find a nursing home for mom.
Oh, yeah.
There's no way I can have mom still in my home and care for her. Well, there is a way.
I work full time. My husband works full time. It got to be difficult to know how long can he be by himself? Is he going to be safe?
Adult Day in Healthcare provides all of the components. We're gap fillers. We basically fill the gap for families when they need to work, when they need respite, whatever it is they need, they can go do it while their loved one's here.
And here he's motivated, he's around people his age, and hopefully he socializes. He tells me he doesn't, but I think he does.
I tell you, we like to be able to affect the lives of the people that come here, not just the caregivers, but our participants and everybody. And I can tell you, they've definitely affected my life because they pour into me as much as I pour into them.
And it's not the thing too that it took me a while to also realize is it's not just for me, it's for my dad too, because otherwise he would sit at home and not interact with anybody.
I get such pleasure when I have people coming in saying, I get to go back to work. Or, I've decided to take a class, just for myself, just something I've been wanting to do, but they can do it. Or, I had one lady tell me all she wanted to do was be able to go home and not have to worry about her spouse because he has dementia, diagnosis of dementia. She said she didn't have to worry about where he was. She just wanted to take a shower by herself and not, worry.
I mean, I couldn't ask for better caregivers, better staff. When I walk out the door, I feel completely at peace knowing that he's fine.
So, for whatever reason people want respite, we're here for it.
So how has the whole pandemic and COVID-19, how has that affected them trusting you?
Yes, that's huge. I put on the board the scripture, and I haven't taken it off yet. So I was like, Lord, do we need to close? What do we need to do? There was not an option for closing, but what the option was is be there. Just be there for whoever needs you. And that's what we did. And we were just here to serve those that still needed us. Sure, I mean, we are already fighting viruses. Sometimes a cold can wipe one of my seniors out. So I don't want them to catch a cold. And the way we did that is I have a fogger. So I fog the facility every day. I use a non-toxic hospital disinfectant, and I go through the facility and fog.
Oh, wow.
So every day I'm fogging. I also use a UV laser, which is a UV light, and I go through each room. It takes 45 minutes a room, so we alternate rooms just to make sure that those are also sanitized. So we're doing everything we can do. We also pray every day, every morning. We're making sure that the Holy Spirit understands that, hey, he is welcome here.
So how do you feel that this facility has impacted your clients?
Well, I know that they feel like they have a partner in this caregiving thing. We're talking to their physicians because we do have a healthcare component. I do have nurses on staff. There are moments where they are who they always were. They'll have lucid moments, and we'll be like, wow, that's who she was. Oh, she's sassy. Because I don't care at what stage their dementia is, or their diagnosis of whatever it is, Parkinson's, whatever it is. Spiritually, they're there. And if you can tap into that, you can pull them back.
So what would you say to those families who are struggling with placing their loved one into an adult daycare?
I'd say that I'd look at the case studies, and I also would say that there are people who did attempt to keep their family members at home, but they found that the social isolation was too great. You've got to understand that with dementia, they are already primarily struggling with anxiety. Sitting at home, socially isolated, that doesn't help. Not at all. The anxiety becomes too great because they're obsessing about one thing, a pandemic. Instead of living, they're existing. And that's no way to live. Many had to learn because there was some cognitive slide there. They were seeing that their loved one was not thriving at all. They're like, well, I don't know what's wrong with her. She's more confused than ever. Well, sitting at home, obsessing, just waiting for the other shoe to drop, that's not healthy.
No.
We're still living.
Yes.
Okay.
Graciously
Yes.
living.
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us,
Thank
Michelle,
you.
and allowing us in your lovely facility.
Thank you. Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
All right.
Hopefully now, after listening to Michelle Allgood, you understand the passion and the purpose behind gracious living. And if you're living with that decision about what to do with mom or dad, please consider an adult daycare in your area. In just a few minutes after the break, we're going to go and sit and talk with a family who unfortunately have lost 4 to 5 members to Alzheimer's disease. They're living with fear. Is it going to happen to be next? Right here on Living With, brought to you in part by G. Davis Productions and Films and the Dementia Alliance of North Carolina.
We were 2 peas in a pod. Wherever my father went, I went. Whatever he did, I did. I live in New Orleans. I'm from Pasadena, California, and so I'll be headed back to Pasadena to see my father. I've been checking on my dad once a month as he's been going through his health issues. In and he said, I love you. I said, I love you too. I said, are you doing okay? And he says, I'm okay. It's an honor and a privilege to be able to take care of such a great man, and I wouldn't have it any other way.
Hi, and welcome back to Living With. Now we're in Raleigh, North Carolina after coming from Charlotte, and with us today is the family that represents the Fosters and the Cheeks. And so we're living with the fear of Alzheimer's. And so living with the fear of Alzheimer's is almost like this family has endured 5, 6 people they've lost over the last 10 years. And so when they lose a set of keys, the first thing that comes through their mind is like, okay, is this happening to me? And so it's real. So we want to have a real conversation today. So Tanya, we want to start with you. When you got that call from your dad that said something ain't quite right with mom, tell me about that.
So I got a phone call from Dad saying that Mom was not her normal self. She was wearing her clothes 3 times, 3 days in a row. She was burning up food. She was asking the same questions over and over again. So he wanted me to come in and say, hey, everybody needs to go to the doctor to check and make sure everything is okay. So that started the process of, with the wellness check, of making sure everything was okay, and we did the assessment for her for Alzheimer's.
So Tanya, what was it like being the daughter and hearing from your dad, something ain't quite right with mom?
I sort of saw it myself, but when he brought it to my attention, it made it more real and more reality that something is going on, because she would call me with the same questions during the day. She would ask me the same thing, and I would answer it saying, okay, Mom, you just asked me that. But I would continue to answer the questions, but yeah, I saw it coming.
So now, Tanya, who are these two ladies that are sitting beside you, and what part did they play to helping you get through this?
This is Karen Wright, my first cousin, and this is Lori Crawley, my first cousin. They became two people that I could lean on, two people that I could confide in, two people that was able to help me with my mom.
Okay. A lot of times, when Alzheimer's, I think, pushes people into seclusion. You don't want the community to know that, something's wrong with mom. You don't want the community to know that I'm going through this. So, we try to do the best that we can with what we have, and that is never enough. So Karen, what was your first reaction? How did it hit you personally?
I guess fear.
Mm-hmm.
Also, losing them
Mm-hmm.
in a way that I didn't think was in line with his legacy.
Mm-hmm.
And fear, and just what are we going to do? How are we going to be able to care for him now? And
So that compounds, in my opinion, the situation. Karen said legacy. And so every family has a mate, who's the head of that family. And so we looked at Dad, June Foster. We talk about quartet music, June Foster. We talk about if there's a funeral in Warren County, June Foster is singing at that funeral. And so when something happens to June Foster within the June Foster family, you don't want everybody to kind of know what's taking place. Was it hard for you to accept?
I think it wasn't hard for me to accept, but just fear losing my daddy, my real daddy.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was my,
I got you.
my real dad, and I didn't want nobody to know, because he had a reputation that I even didn't know about. My dad cut wood for people. He took care of other people's family. He just did a lot.
Right.
So everybody looked for him for strength. So they didn't look for him to be not alert in things.
Right.
He used to work for the funeral home, Mary Davis Funeral Home, and so she called Previs one day and told him that he didn't make it to the funeral. And they didn't, just little simple things like that.
Right.
Losing my daddy.
Yeah. And Alzheimer's has a way of, we lose people before they're gone.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you're talking about legacy, and of course legacy means a lot. But when I hear people say legacy, that means, they hold their loved one in high esteem. But whether they're in high esteem what they do in the community or high esteem on what they do on the job, at the end of the day, that's your mama and that's your daddy. That's high enough. Lori, tell me about your first one.
I was grieving. I grieved. I grieved for my daddy, my real daddy, the true person. It's almost like I lost him twice. I lost him, the real person, and then I lost him in death. I was fearful because being a survivor of cancer and having to do chemo, every time I have chemo fog, I think that I'm having an Alzheimer's episode.
Right.
And so I have to make the distinction between the chemo fog and Alzheimer's. And so my doctors work with me to make sure that I'm on the right path, that this is not happening to me. But it's fear. it's a lot of fear. I don't want that to happen to me. I don't want that to happen to me because I feel like I've already been through enough. I don't need Alzheimer's to come and steal me. It steals from you.
So let me say this. I kind of want to take the time and first say thank you for telling your story, because someone's going to get strength from this. You know, we don't get a call in the middle of the night and say you're going to be a caregiver tomorrow. We get a call that says, meet me at the hospital, mom or dad failed. Then everybody comes to the hospital and it's a little bit more serious than we thought. Who ends up taking care of mama? Whoever lives closest to her. And your brothers and sisters from out of town call and tell you what to do. The one that makes the money tries to make all the decisions. The one that's never there with you to help tries to get on your nerves. So that's just family. So I applaud you for taking an effort to tell your story, because at the end of the day, people need to know that they are not alone when they're dealing with this. You know, we're talking about June Foster and Previs, you know, the Warrington Echoes, legendary quartet group, not just in North Carolina, but throughout. And June Foster, one of the founders of that group, that's your dad. And, you know, I get emotional thinking about what was it like to be on that stage and to see him fade away, but you're trying to go past to hold it together.
I think for me, the one thing that I knew I had to do, even being his son, one of 3, was to protect him, especially in that environment, in that community, when we on stage, to never let anyone see that he was experiencing this. There were many times where, you know, this is a man, and you know, my family can agree, this was a man that had a 3rd grade education, but by the power of the Holy Ghost, knew what to sing and how to sing. So I wanted to protect that legacy with him. I didn't want anyone to see that, you know, he was forgetting. Right. So where he may have forgotten words to a song, I would just jump right in. Right. Right. That was the protector side of me. So it was hard. Yeah. Even in this point, just to talk about it. It's really, and I'm trying to hold it together, but he was everything that I knew about quartet singing. And to lose, again, I can agree with my 2 sisters, the fear of losing this monumental man to this disease. Everything in me wanted to protect losing him, or having the community look at him another way, because I never wanted anyone, because he had so much pride, I never wanted anyone to be like, oh, look at June. I never wanted anyone to feel sorry for him in a pitiful kind of way. I understand sympathy and empathy, but I didn't want his legacy to be degraded.
And so legacy is important to me, but also I just want to break it down to its lowest common denominator, that just your daddy.
Right.
And someone who's watching this has a daddy and has a mother. And what I want them to get out of this is that you cannot do this by yourself.
You cannot.
You cannot.
Just like it takes a village to raise a child. It really takes a village. It took all of us coming together to make sure that Aunt Lois was okay, that Daddy was okay, that my Uncle Robert was okay,
Uncle Vesta.
Our Uncle Sylvester. It just took all of us. It just wasn't my cousin's job to make sure that their parent was okay. It was our job to make sure that, first of all, our cousin was okay, but that we were there to help them, because I understood what they were facing. It's not easy. I couldn't have done it by myself. I wouldn't want to do it by myself.
Okay, so in terms of, I remember the call that I got. My aunt called me and said, "You check on Mom." And so I called Emily, because Emily's like, in my family, Emily's the one that, you know, that's closest to Mom, is taking care of Mom. And so we had Mom to come to my house. I had Dr. Laura Baker from Wake Forest, in a setting where she could ask Mom some questions where Mom didn't feel like she was at the doctor's office. And one of the hardest things that I ever had to do in my life, guys, was to sit there and listen to my mom's answers, knowing that something ain't quite right. But Mom's looking at me, and so I have to keep a straight face and be happy because I don't want her to think like, am I saying something wrong? Am I doing something wrong? And so she would ask her, where does Garrett stay? Well, yeah, he stays in Winston. What did you guys eat last night? Well, we ate something Garrett cooked. But when it came to, well, if you fail, could you get up with Garrett? Well, I call Emma and Emma would call Garrett. Well, what if you can't get up with Emma? Well, I pray that never happens. I mean, we all know that people with Alzheimer's, we have to go into their world. We can't expect them to come into ours. And so I really appreciate the fact that it does take family. And so with Dartez, you being the baby of this group, how has that affected how you deal with everyday life, and how has it affected, your whole outlook on this Alzheimer's?
Pretty tough, to be honest. I felt like once my granddaddy had it, our relationship was getting stronger. He was dealing with another situation, so like every Tuesday and Thursday we was together, and I can't say I was the first one to notice it, but I was in the early stages of knowing that something right with my granddaddy, and I was like, Mom, Granddaddy keep repeating himself. We just ate. 5 minutes later, he said he's still hungry, or when we gonna eat again. So I knew something wasn't right. So like they said, to lose him, before he's gone, and then you watch your parent deal with it, and so you want the best for your parent and your grandparent, and then just to feel that it might happen to my mom, or it might happen to my aunts or uncles, or it might skip them and get me. I don't want my daughter to deal with it. So it's an ugly disease, and I don't know. Just these people here help you get through it. Talking and the love that we share for each other. Yeah.
And so people that are watching, these people here are what we call family. And family is, we don't always get along. It clicks in every family.
Right.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, you got to determine who's going to do what, so that everything gets done.
That's right.
So, guys, reflecting on all that we've been talking about the last few minutes, if we could go back in time and look at this all differently, what would we do differently? If we could just kind of go back, all the things that have taken place with our loved ones dealing with disease.
I would not hide it. Even though the family is, the core of dealing with it, I wouldn't hide it from the community. So like my dad, one time he's singing, we got out late, go home, I get home, I get a call from my stepmom to say he's not home. This is 3 hours later. And he experienced sundown. So, as long as the sun is up, he's good. But when the sun goes down, he forgets. So if we had a moment where we shared it with the community intimately, then they could have been a support for us in those moments that, he lost track of where he was. The whole community could gather together and find a safe place for him or get him to a safe place.
What about you, Tanya?
I wouldn't hide it either, because I see my mom and my Uncle June as helpers. And when the helper needs help, what happens? But if we had vocalized it more and said that these two people that have helped a whole lot of people now need help, can you guys help us? I think it would have been a different outcome. The love, the pouring of the love, and the strength and the words of encouragement, everything that we probably would have needed at that time would have came forth.
Yeah. I agree with Prayers Dan, Tanya. I think I would not hide it, and I would let myself experience the emotions of it. I didn't allow myself. Like now, I'm so nervous. Not nervous because we're doing it, but I'm nervous because we're talking about it. And you think you're over something, till it's brought back up. And so I really thought I was just kind of over it a little bit, you know. But I'm sitting here shaky now talking about it.
That response alone should let folks who's looking at this know it's okay.
Yeah.
Because you've gone G-O-N-E through it. Somebody's G-O-I-N-G going through it and is just as nervous as you are, and that's okay. But what's getting you through is this family here. And that's what I want people to understand, that there's no way possible you can do this by yourself.
No.
You're fighting a losing battle if you do. One of the things that Previs said was that, you know, well, all of you said, I wouldn't hide it. June was a stellar person in the community. And now that we reflect, it's over with. If we had told the community, they probably would have rushed it.
Oh, yeah.
But when you're going through it, you don't want nobody to know what's going on.
Yeah.
And so hopefully this is going to give us strength. What about you, Laura?
I would not hide it, but I also would laugh. I would laugh. I would find, even though it was not funny at the time, I would learn how to make myself laugh, enjoy him, enjoy my aunt, you know, in the moment that they were in, where they were, not try to make them come back into my world, but I would laugh. Because that would make me feel better. I think it would make them feel better. I had a conversation with my dad one day, and we were cleaning his fingernails, and we were talking about age, and he said, "You getting old now?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "How old are you?" And he said, "I'm 54." So we laughed, and he laughed, and I said, "Oh my God." He found the humor in it, because I think he thought he was 55, but he wasn't. And so it just, I would find the humor. I would find the laughter in it. I would relax.
Relax.
I would relax.
So guys, thank you for taking time out to tell your story, because that means so much. Because someone looking at this is going to say, you know what, if they can do it, then we can do it. So continue to tell your story, and the legacy of June Foster and the rest, and Goodness and Lois and James and all of them, they'll always live with us, because we're doing our part to make sure people understand that you can't do this alone. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah. Thank you.
You start out, you're more of a care partner, but depending on the illness as it progresses, you become a caregiver. Make sure you find a doctor or a specialist that you can talk to and work with, because they're going to become a very intimate part of your family. We do have a very tight relationship with doctors, whatever it is, you know, whatever specialist that we need to be speaking with for whatever may be occurring, we have that kind of communication. You develop that kind of communication. You are the person who's going to be able to communicate the best with the physician. I have a deep spiritual faith in God, and I know that He put me here for a reason. I firmly believe that. I've always believed that. And He's not going to let go. He's not going to let go of my hand. If I need assistance, if I need help, there's no better entity to go to than God. You may be experiencing something that, with your loved one, that someone has already experienced. There's all kinds of support groups within most cities. So I would suggest you reach out to them, so they can give you that help and support and information that you may need. It's important to connect with people. You really have to play the hand that life deals you. And either you can fold and just let it overtake you, or you can stay in the game. And, you know, I hope they stay in the game.
Welcome back to Living With. Today we're at our final destination. We started the day off in Charlotte, North Carolina at Gracious Living, talking about adult daycare and how that falls into place of caregiving. And then we just left the home of the Fosters and the Cheeks. And over the last 10 years, they've lost 5 to 6 members to Alzheimer's, and they are living in fear of Alzheimer's. And today we end up at our sponsors, the Dementia Alliance of North Carolina. Thank you for inviting us here.
Thank you for coming. Yeah, absolutely. Welcome.
Right. So Heather, let's start with you. So our viewers have been watching adults live with Alzheimer's for the last hour, and we're at Gracious Living, and that idea of, do I put mom in a rest home? Do I put dad in a rest home? And in the African American community, that could be like, no, we don't do that. And then we spoke with a family who, over the last 10 years, they've lost 5 to 6 members to Alzheimer's within that family. And so there are a lot of questions to be asked. But before we get into that, tell me a little bit about Dementia Alliance of North Carolina. What exactly is that organization?
Absolutely. So Dementia Alliance of North Carolina is a 501c3 nonprofit, and our whole mission is to improve the lives of those impacted by dementia and their caregivers. So we are here to walk with people through their journey, no matter when they call us, and we have people here just to help at no charge to the family. We have a dementia navigator. That's her whole job, is to work one-on-one with families to make sure that they have the resources, that they have the education, that they have the referrals that they need in their own communities across the state. We're focused here in North Carolina. And so all of what we do is focused on the people that live here and that work here and that our families are here. We also have education initiatives, which Lisa's going to tell us more about, but to help families get the education they need to better care for their loved ones, hopefully to have them age in place at longer, but that will also give them the ability to make that choice when they need to make that choice and have all the facts in place.
Right.
We also have a great program called Music and Memory, which helps provide playlists and MP3 players to families just to bring them joy. We know how much music is a part of who we are as humans, and that personalized playlist has so many benefits. So, and then we fund a little bit of research right here in North Carolina. So it's just, again, bringing that local focus to help our families going through this. They don't have to do it alone.
Right. That's key. I think, the work that I've been doing for years with Alzheimer's, the one thing I want to change is that sometimes we wait to the last minute to reach out for help. And I'm sure your phone rings every day.
Crisis.
Crisis.
Yes.
What would you tell our viewers who are looking, and they've looked at the families we spoke with, they looked at the adult daycare center, what would you tell a family who's a little bit hesitant about reaching out to anyone? What would you say?
I would say the sooner the better. Don't wait until it is a crisis moment to call us and just say, hey, I need to know what to put in place for mom or dad, or I need to know, what would you recommend? And so that way you've already established your care team around you, and we're really a part of your team, and you feel the trust in us. We've already built that relationship, and that when you pick up the phone, like, okay, I know I'm gonna call Dee Dee or Lisa or Heather or the Dementia Alliance and get somebody that I can trust that has our best interests at heart.
Now, is this, even though your office is here in Raleigh, I'm assuming, and you'll tell me, but you've got connections throughout
the entire state.
Okay, good.
Yes.
That's good.
Yeah, so we work with the local area agencies on aging, the local counties, and we have trusted partners in each of these places. So if we don't know the answer, we're going to find somebody who does, and we're going to make sure that we vet it out for you. And that just takes away that guessing game of someone's giving me 20 million, options. No, let's help you pare it down. And we know that can be overwhelming. And so we want to alleviate that burden.
One thing that you said that kind of sticks with me, you said a dementia navigator.
Dementia navigator, yes.
And so I'm assuming that means I call you and I say, someone in my family has dementia, and you're going to navigate me through what I'm going through, what I'm about to go through. That is very, very important.
It
It is.
Because one, dementia is not, it can be a complex disease, meaning, because everybody's dementia is not the same. No two people are alike. And so for someone to navigate what I'm about to go through, to navigate what I'm going through, to me, that's priceless. Mm-hmm. And you're saying you're doing that for free.
Yes. For free.
Right.
Well, at no cost to the family.
Is this what I'm saying? Yeah.
Yes.
No cost to the family, yeah. Wow. So Lisa, what are some of the programs offered here at Dementia Alliance?
So let's start with the Care Navigator
Good,
program. Okay.
Good.
So not only do we have that social worker who will help the person from, I think there might be a problem, to we've been diagnosed, now what, to how do I find that adult day program, or I think mom's at the end of life, what do I do now? She's there through every single step of that. We also train support group facilitators across the state, and we have ongoing support for those leaders. So we have about 200, I think, support groups right now across the state. Our goal is to have one in every county. We're almost there. But we know how important it is for caregivers to have that ongoing support from people who are going through the same thing they're going through. And whether that be in person or online, we're training and providing resources constantly for those folks so that they can then go into the communities and help the people directly with dementia themselves.
Wow. Yeah. So those that are watching, a lot of times when we see other people going through, it makes us feel, okay, I'm not alone. I'm not the only one going through this. So Lisa, so someone calls and they say, my family member has dementia. What's the first thing you tell them?
I think one of the first things is to say, you're not alone. We're here to go through this with you.
Wow.
Thank you for calling us or reaching out to us, and let's figure it out together. We really do want to hold the hands of the people going through this so that they don't feel isolated and alone. We want to provide education for these folks so that they know right from the start kind of a little bit more of what to expect. Like you said, everybody's different, but there are some similarities. So what to look for, what to expect, what's going to happen over time, and then how to get prepared. For example, everybody needs to have all their legal information and advance directive information ready to go right up front. And so those are things that if they haven't been put into place already, we want to find someone to help that family do that right away.
Right. And we're looking at you guys as terms of the specialists in the field because, our viewers saw the Cheek and Foster family talking about their experience, but none of them in that family are what we call experts in the field. I asked them if they could do anything different, what would they do? What would they do? And all of them said they wouldn't keep it a secret. People shouldn't feel like they're bad because they want to hold something dear and they don't want their loved ones to it's like they're outing them or like they are putting them in a position where I don't want nobody to see them like this. That's absolutely normal. So what I want to ask you is that why should people not keep their loved one having Alzheimer's a secret? Because this is a disease that can kind of push you into seclusion, and you want to be protective of your loved ones and not let everyone know what's going on. But why is it important not to keep this a secret?
So it's a normal feeling to protect our loved ones, always. And someone with dementia is probably starting to struggle in everyday situations. They may say the wrong thing or do the wrong thing. So someone might feel like we're, what's wrong with them? What's going on? And we want to protect our loved ones from that, always. But on the other hand, if we don't talk about what's going on, if no one shares that, no one learns from it either. And you do feel isolated and alone because you become, you're more at home. You're having to help that person. Let me help you all day long. But I can't go out with my friends because I've got to help you. So I'm starting to withdraw a little bit socially from my network. And instead of reaching out and saying, this is why I'm doing it, and hey, do you think maybe you could come over and we could be social, but we could do that with my loved one and include them? They become more and more isolated. So it's so important to talk about what's going on with them. Another thing we find is that caregivers often don't want to ask for help. We all think we can do it by ourselves. we all do. That's just being human.
Mm-hmm.
And we're strong and we're independent and we don't have to ask for help. And it might be embarrassing to ask for that help. But it's so important for us to reach out to our friends at that time and say, yeah, I need your support. I need your help. And so instead of not sharing with those folks, that's the time where we really need to be speaking up. On the medical side of things, it's important to get assistance for someone with dementia very early on. Most of our treatments and therapies are based on early dementia, early Alzheimer's. And so if we wait too long, often there's not any therapies that we can do to help delay the progression of the disease, where we could do that with a medication perhaps starting out.
Right.
We can't do that later on. So there's so many reasons why we keep that close to the vest and we don't share, and there's a stigma that goes with it, but there's so many more reasons why we should share. And the more we talk about it, the less stigma there is.
Holidays are approaching.
They are.
We're living in a pandemic.
We are.
Things are not what we used to call normal. We've got some uncertainty with a lot of things in the country right now. However, it's still family. Thanksgiving is coming and Christmas is coming no matter what. But, we understand that can be a depressing time of year if you're a caregiver, because maybe you can't do all the things that you want to do because I got to do my caregiving duties. But that's normal. That's reality. What do you say to someone during the holidays? How they can make it a little bit more enjoyable for themselves if they are a caregiver?
Yeah, just being in the holidays right now, we know that it, like you said, it can be stressful during the best of times.
Mm-hmm.
This year's going to be a little bit different. But, taking a step back and almost basking in the simplicity and the gift that may bring this year.
Mm-hmm.
Finding other ways to include your loved one living with dementia, or, keeping it as less stressful as we can. Things like playing some music that we all enjoy, or Lisa can speak to traveling if that's something that your family is choosing, but, incorporating them and doing things just a little bit simpler and a little bit different, but enjoying the presence of being together.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So living with Alzheimer's, guys, is our first series, feature on our series. We plan to do living with other diseases, but Alzheimer's is close to me because of the work that we've been doing and what my mom is going through. But I wanted to share and spotlight agencies like Gracious Living, who has a great facility that allows loved ones to stay there for like 8 hours, while they get respite and go to work and do some things. I wanted to share a family like the Fosters and the Cheeks who are living in fear. Is it going to happen to me? So thank you both for allowing us to come by the Dementia Alliance of North Carolina. I truly understand now what the Alliance means in Dementia Alliance, because you guys have aligned yourselves with resources and organizations that can reach out and touch you wherever you are in North Carolina if you're going through dementia. So if you have dementia, then I'm going to turn to the Dementia Alliance of North Carolina. That means a lot. And so from the Gracious Living to the Fosters and the Cheeks, and now to you, where it all started, thank you so much for allowing us to come here today.
Thank you.
All right.